The next place that we're challenged to process out the fear on our journey through transition or maybe a wilderness season is going to be dealing with our fear of risk and facing giants. This is dealing with the fear of failure, inadequacy, confrontation, maybe some disappointment when we step into things that are bigger than ourselves. What this reveals is our relation to how we approach something we see as bigger than us. Core scripture for this study is Numbers chapters 13 and 14. This is the story of when the Israelites scout out the promised land. They send scouts into the land and receive a report. The report that they receive makes them frightened because fear has a voice that spreads like a virus. It's not even the thing, it is the fear attached to it that we have to deal with. So the report that the scouts gave was very fearful. People were overcome by that fear and grief. We'll discuss that in a second. And they actually refused to enter the land. Let me read you their response from Numbers 13. I'll start in verse 31. The scouts said, "We can't attack the people because they are stronger than we are." So they gave a negative report to the Israelites about the land that they had scouted. "The land we passed through to explore is one that devours its inhabitants, and all the people we saw in it are men of great size. We even saw the Nephilim there. To ourselves we seemed like grasshoppers, and we must have seemed the same to them." This is their report. "Through the lens of fear," Chapter 14, then the whole community broke into loud cries and the people wept all night. All the Israelites complained about Moses and Aaron, and the whole community told them, "If only we had died in the land of Egypt, or if only we had died in the wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us into this land to die by sword? Our wives and children will become plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt?" So they said to one another, "Let's appoint a leader to go back to Egypt." Now, the leaders that they appointed were Korah and his men that we talked about yesterday. There are a couple things we need to know to make it through this checkpoint. Number one, the promise will typically look bigger than something that we can handle. God's promises, or what he has for us, or freedom, will never be small, because the plans will never be small, because God is not small, and neither are we. God doesn't do small things. God has literally been telling them from the beginning that he will give them the land, that it is good, that it is theirs, that they will inhabit it. And he even tells them that when they get there, there will be people inhabiting it, but he will drive them out ahead. Let me read this to you. This is literally all the way back in Exodus. Exodus 23, verse 20 is God's plan. Now, God will always let you know what's happening. So this is why we have to deal with the harshness or the bitterness, so that we can hear God clearly. Because he tells us the promise and the plan at the same time. The enemy is the one who would deceive us into agreeing before we know how things are going to play out. God lays it all out. He walks in truth. He literally is truth. So he will always let us know what's coming. He will always let us know the plan for what he's saying. Promise and warnings go hand in hand. So this is why we have to be diligent about not being in rebellion. The way that we do that is to make sure that we're processing through bitterness or the unprocessed grief and sorrow, so that the way we hear what God is saying does not seem harsh. A lot of people hear God's warnings as harsh, when actually it's the warning. When you can hear the warning clearly, you will understand the plan. Okay, this is Exodus 23, starting from verse 20. I want you to read from 20 to 33. Okay, let me paraphrase because we limited on time here. He's telling them how I'm going to send an angel to go before you to protect you on the way, to bring you to the place that I have prepared. Be attentive and listen to him. Do not defy him, because he will not forgive your acts of rebellion, for my name is in him. But if you carefully obey him in everything that I say, then I will be an enemy to your enemy and a foe to your foes. For my angel will go before you. The angel of the Lord, the God of war, goes before us. Let me skip ahead to verse 27. It says, I will cause the people ahead of you to feel terror, and that terror will throw them into confusion. So he's also giving us the game plan on how fear works. If you hear the voice of fear, you hearken diligently to the voice of fear. Instead of the voice of love, you experience terror. The terror creates confusion. It's process. Then it says, I will make all your enemies turn their backs to you in retreat. He just unpacked the process of how fear creates rebellion. When you are confused, you turn your back to God because you don't want to hear his words because they seem harsh. Verse 29, here it is. I will not drive them out ahead of you in a single year. Otherwise, the land would become desolate and the wild animals would multiply against you. So the enemies are inhabiting the land and they're holding it for you until you get there. This is one of the ways he works all things together for the good. The wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. That's an example of it right there. They are tilling the land. They are working the land. They are creating this place that is in the right position for God's people to come in and inhabit it. But the issue is how they're seeing where they're going. God's plans are so thorough. He thoroughly tells us what's going to happen so we can be aware of the pitfalls when we do not see the warning as something harsh. The scouts going into the land was actually confirmation that they were on track and that it was everything that God had said it was going to be. All of us want confirmation, but what if the confirmation that you want scares you? Do you still want it? Are you still using that as an excuse to why you're not moving? I'm not moving because God hasn't confirmed it. That tells me that you're paralyzed in fear. This is one of the ways we cover that we're actually in a state of fear, paralyzed, unable to move. You're saying that it's because you need confirmation, but that's not the truth. The truth is you're afraid because you don't know what step to take. Love allows us to see that God works everything together for the good. So no matter what step we take is the right decision, and he will confirm either way. Humility allows us to take the course correction along the way. Fear of God prevents us from moving in the first place. It paralyzes us. We stay in one spot. The question is, how do you respond to the confirmation that you asked for when it scares you? Number 2, fear distorts how we see ourselves and it alters our identity. Fear minimizes who we are and it magnifies who we're not. The report that the scouts gave was that the Nephilim, the giants, were there and that the people were like grasshoppers compared to them. Now, the world calls this developing a self-concept, but you cannot have a correct view of yourself without the one who created you. So any self-concept that you try to design by only your perception is going to be limited. This is the response to the scout. Number 14, the whole community broke out in loud cries and the people wept all night. That's sorrow. They grieved all night. However, they did not grieve and process through correctly because instead of joy coming in the morning they got up, appointed a leader, and decided to go back to Egypt. Which leads me to number 3, returning to Egypt, trauma response. Processing grief and sorrow with God is what the Bible gives the concept of lamenting. It's lamenting. A lot of the Psalms are poems or songs of lamenting. David did this really well. But the purpose of lamenting is not just to complain and stay stuck on the problem. You process through the grief and sorrow, scream it out, cry it out, do whatever you need to do so that you can get to the other side. Joy comes in the morning, the perception that God gives in exchange for sharing what it is that you see with him. Parents, this is why it's important that you don't just send your kids to their room to think about what they did without guiding how they're thinking about it. If they're dwelling on their mistake instead of finding a constructive way to look at it moving forward, we're not helping them. Love and wisdom allows us to reframe fear into excitement. Trauma responses create cycles of defeat, of retreat, of regression, of delay. So the question today is, God, where have I been listening to the voice of fear when scouting out what could be? And what is it that you've already told me in your plan would happen that I'm not seeing here?